Did you feel that doing post-cycle therapy compromised your business in any way, shape, or form?
Honestly, people have said over the last few months that I'm much happier and smile a lot more and stuff than I used to. So I think actually being on anabolic steroids would have compromised things a lot more because I'm just not as social and
So you're
nice.
more you're a more tolerable boss. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come off and just kind of prove it. And if I didn't recover, okay, then it would be proof that me as an individual needs hormone replacement. But as of now, I don't need it, and I didn't need hormone replacement when I started at the age of 26. You know, so it's good to prove. And so I really hope that people can learn something from my experience and your experience, and then have the courage to do post psychotherapy. I challenged Derek to do a post psychotherapy, but he didn't bite yet. Actually, at
That'd
this
be
point, I wouldn't recommend him to do post psychotherapy because there's a down period involved, and you lose productivity, and you get a little bit
oh yeah,
insecure, right? And then
yeah.
his business is booming so much, and he's actually responsible for other people. I never looked at it that way, but he has Gorilla Mind where people work, right? He has Merrick Health where people worked. He's employing people through the YouTube channel, and any down period means other people don't have the opportunity to be financially secure as well. So I completely
Wow.
understand, right? And now people are working for me also. So I try not to make down periods. Like you have your gym, right? Like call it strength and fitness.
Yes, sir.
Like so, you're actively employing people as well. Did you feel that doing post cycle therapy compromised your business in any way, shape, or form?
Honestly, people have said over the last few months that I'm much happier and smile a lot more and stuff than I used to. So I think actually being on anabolic steroids would have compromised things a lot more because I'm just not as social and
So you're
nice.
more you're a more tolerable boss.
Yeah, I'm more willing to socialize with people and whereas if I'm on cycle or something, I'm kind of like I don't want to deal with this.
Right. You delegate, or
It's
you're
that
just a little bit snappy, right?
it's a little more irritated and like
Yeah.
less tolerant and I don't know.
You
That
should
so actually
try
it's been
try to
positive.
try the fasting mimicking diet. You turn into a giant beta. You're never angry again.
Dude,
Really?
I felt that when my test was like 38, I literally was like, I couldn't get angry. I was like the nicest guy in the world.
Right. Well, don't you feel like at peace? I felt so at peace when my testosterone was
Yes.
super low and I wasn't eating a
Yes.
lot, and I was so calm. It's like going to the temple. Just
Dude,
everything is
it's
bliss. And of
that
course,
was
you go
it,
to the
Steve.
gym. You go to the gym, and it feels like you're dying. So I didn't go to
Yeah,
the
you
gym
feel
anymore.
terrible.
But during the day, you're super. My wife always enforces that. Yeah, you were the best husband when you're doing the
Yes.
fasting mimicking diet, and you're like midway through post cycle therapy. And now you're training again, and you eat protein, and your testosterone is going up, and you're already,
Dude,
so it's
it's crazy
crazy.
you say that. That was it. Because I was like mellow and I felt so good. I'm like, life is great. I'm at peace. Nothing bothers me. But training sucked. But other than that, when my test was like 100, I was like, I could live like this. If I
Yeah,
wasn't training, I'm like, I'd be fine.
yeah, right. That's the only non-enjoyable moment during the day. And of course, your libido is not that great. So at one point, the
No,
wife
I had
starts to
nothing.
complain. Right. So
Zero.
it's a trade-off, right? You have no irritation, but no libido. I think that goes hand in hand.
Zero.
I think that's because they're polar opposites. So when you're on train, you
Yeah,
have high irritation, but also high libido, and you're
100%.
and you have zero test, no libido, no irritation. So I told my wife, so what do you want? You want
Yeah.
none of both, or a little bit of both, or more libido and a little bit of irritation. You have to see through your fingers.
Dude,
It's
it's weird. It was a fun experience though, because I was like, wow, I'm mellow as can be. But
it was yeah, it was great. I was like that for like a couple months, or nothing
yeah, I had two
bothered
months
me.
like that.
Yeah, and then the fasting mimicking diet, I was completely at peace. Probably the first time in my life where I was just nothing
Yeah,
bothers me.
exactly.
Like literally nothing bothered me.
Oh, it
It
was
was
good times.
absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, well, when I was traveling, I felt similar because I had financial security, and I just had every day I had to decide what cool stuff I was going to do. But that was probably the best period of my traveling, and then the 6 weeks of the fasting mimicking diet. And now that I'm training again, I'm working up that aggression to lift heavy weights or close to a previous comparable strength level. It's the irritation returns, and the blood sugar fluctuations, even though I'm on a ketogenic diet, they're also there. So, man, I think if I ever have kids, I'll probably do the fasting mimicking diet and just go off cycle and just be like just for 3 years, be the most beta male ever. And so I can deal with the crying and screaming and then painting on the walls and all that stuff. I already discussed this with my wife. I said, if you ever have kids, I'm just going to do the same thing, and maybe just suppress the testosterone by not, doing the post-cycle therapy properly.
People think you're crazy, but I literally completely relate to that because that's how I felt. I was like, I don't feel aggressive or masculine as much, but I felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Do you ever is it just me, or do you as you're not on drugs as much and stuff, do you have any like hypochondria, or is that just me?
Yeah, still. No, we both have this, and I think it's because we got some health changes, and like mine is resolved, right? But you're still actively trying to resolve this, peeing in the blood in the urine and some of the cancer markers, and so I think for you, you'll be a lot more at peace when everything is diagnosed and you have an approach to resolve it, right? So whatever is going on, if they're cancer or bladder issues or kidney stones or whatever, get diagnosed, and then you have an action plan to actively resolve it. So when I was diagnosed, and I saw that I had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, it was like, okay, we're gonna have to make some changes, but I'm gonna pursue it, right? So I was actively trying to resolve it. And now that it's resolved, I'm not as much of a hypochondriac, but I know going forward, I need to be way more conscious about my food intake and my drug selection, right? Because if I do the same things I used to do, then it will just return. The non-alcoholic fatty liver disease will return, or the irritation issues will return. So going forward, the approach is going to be more moderate, right? And which is also making me understand that I will never be able to reproduce my previous best shapes. That's very tough.
Same
right?
here.
It's very tough. I think as time progresses, I'll understand that, just be happy with less and live longer. But I'm still a hypochondriac, and I'm sure as I get older, naturally, health issues start to manifest, and I just address it right away. If I see issues on my blood work, address it right away. Pay the money, go to the doctor. All the money I used to spend on drugs, I doubled and put in a savings account for health expenses.
Smart. Get all the tests done and stuff.
Get all the tests done. I just spend it. I in the last couple of years, I didn't spend so much on drugs, and I was always in a fortunate position that I didn't have to spend so much because I'm known. So I get, retail, or what is it, wholesale price. So I didn't spend so much, but the savings account was always there. And I would just keep topping it up. And whenever I needed it, like all these, cancer screenings and ultrasounds and all that stuff, I just paid from the savings account. So it didn't really set me back financially. And I still have plenty of money in that savings account, even though I won't be topping it off much with, comparable expenses to the performance enhancing drugs. So it's, I'll still do it because as we get older, I'm sure issues will manifest even without the drugs. That's life. That's age catching up with us.
Yeah, that's what it's frustrating because I was on drugs for all those years and I didn't have anything happen. I come off drugs and I start peeing blood. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I'm trying to be health conscious, and then I got this to deal with. So that's been frustrating.
I honestly still think that
to make things better.
That peeing blood is just strain in your bladder. Like we discussed by email, I think it's just strain from the deadlifting, and maybe you're structurally a little bit different because you're smaller now and you're holding the belt differently. So I think there maybe, again, just speculating, I think there's like a micro injury in your bladder or kidneys. And the strenuous workouts is exacerbating that. But you said you stopped deadlifting for a while, and even while you were fasting for a couple of days, you still got blood in your urine, right?
Well, actually, you bring up a good point because the blood in the urine today happened right after deadlifts. Could be.
So now, let's say you get diagnosed, right? And they say, it's just strain. Now it's even a harder choice. Now you got to give up your fucking love for a while.
Well, I could sit on it for like a period of time, but I would have to go back to deadlift at some point. But
Right.
I could go without it for a little while if I knew it would clear the issue up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's kidney stones. I ordered a bunch of like citric acid and something called like Chanka, or I don't know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stonebreaker it's known as.
Yeah.
I ordered a bulk amount of that stuff I'm gonna take. I've been doing the apple cider vinegar. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just want to get it resolved because, like you said, I'm good. My headspace is good, and then as soon as it happens, I freak out and start
Yeah.
googling everything, and I think I have cancer immediately. So
Right.
I start like emailing you and Leo and like freaking out. I'm like, I'm dying. I've got
Right.
lupus and bladder cancer, and
Yeah, you just like that's the worst thing you could do, right? You go on the internet and you self-diagnose. And I
oh
did the
my
same
god,
thing.
I've done that with.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Like I did my cancer screening and I saw that my neuronal specific annulase was elevated. The first and only time one of the cancer marker was elevated. So I started Googling, do I have COVID? And then I found a correlation between COVID and elevated neuron specific annulase and a couple other markers, right? There will be an early indication. So I'm like, oh my fuck, I gotta get this diagnosed. What is the issue? Because the neuron specific annulase is the brain, the lungs, and a million other organs in the body. Right? It's related to all the organs. So I went to the hospital, did all the ultrasounds done, redid a test for neuronal specific annulase, H. pylori, other cancer markers that nobody knows about, and I can't even remember. $1,500, for everything. And then the doctor said, you're fine, but you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm like, oh, great. All right. So, okay, we'll resolve that. At least I don't have cancer or COVID.
That's a good trade-off.
Right. And then, of course, I spent thousands of dollars on the supplements and the blood work and additional ultrasounds. But the good thing about Thailand is I can do it like this. I don't need to go through a doctor. I can go to any private hospital, talk with a doctor. They understand that I'm a hypochondriac, and they'll write me a list of things to get tested. And the same day I have the results. I can do everything
That's
in one
awesome.
day. One
That's
day.
incredible.
In Holland, it would be impossible.
Do
That's one of the reasons. Like my mom, she walked around with issues for 3 years, right? Went to the primary healthcare physician, right? He's like, oh, you're fine. Just do this. You're fine. Stop drinking and smoking. Didn't even want to run tests. Didn't even do blood work. She walked around that with 3 years. Every 6 months she would go, I have issues. It's getting worse. Please diagnose me. Then at one point he broke down and sent her for an echocardiogram and a stress test. And she got admitted right away. Said, ma'am, this is not right. Your heart is not functioning correctly. 3 fucking years, dude.
That's ridiculous.
So that's why I have no faith in the Dutch system, because my mom almost died because of that. Okay, it was self-induced. Let's be honest. It was self-induced cardiovascular disease due to lifestyle, right? But she didn't get diagnosed for 3 years. So here I can get diagnosed like this. I just have to pay out of pocket. So I'm saving a small fortune just for situations like this, where if I have to get admitted, I can just pay for it out of pocket without healthcare, which I do have. And I send the bills, but most of them it's not covered. But again, the expenses are not that high. I can do an fMRI here for a couple $1,000s, which sounds a lot to a lot of people, but it's like in America, it's, $10,000s.
Is it really? I
think
shoot.
so.
Well, I want to get that done at some point. But
oh, yeah. But so, but I recommend it with you on the Leo Link Longevity podcast. Do as much tests as you can there through your primary, and everything you want to test extra. Book a ticket to Thailand, and you will spend less on the ticket to Thailand, the hotel, all the expenses here, and
then you would on.
And all the health stuff you want to take care of compared to one test in the States.
Do you think we'll always be like we are now, where we'll just constantly have to check labs every month and like make sure there's nothing going haywire? Because like Leo said, he's like, well, hypochondriacs live longer. It's the people who don't care and don't worry that they're the ones who don't catch things. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't like.
I think it's for us. It's just ease of mind. I do blood work every 2 to 3 months. Just ease of mind. And many times there's nothing to report. It's exactly where I expected it to be. So I'm like, well, it's like, oh, I could have predicted that. But it just, keeps the hypochondriac at bay. It's like, oh, Steve, you're fine, even though I didn't catch the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So, maybe I'm not catching other stuff early on, but I'm still doing the ultrasounds and, I check everything, right, regularly, at least so I'm as early as possible to get it resolved. And when I discussed my non-alcoholic fatty liver disease with a hepatologist, he was just laughing. So, dude, this is nothing.